I would say so. It's going to be a classic matchup one way or the other. When these guys go at it, it's always great. They're ready to go. They are talking up a storm right now in the lobby, so I don't want to hold them back from each other. It's going to be on apotheosis. Solar is our current reigning king at 2 wins. And Innovation, of course, the king of kings, the 10-win streak. The original 10-win streak.
Oh, wow.
He would love to restart that again. He tried. He came back last month and unfortunately was not able to get it done against ByuN, although it was a hell of a match. But he's now playing against Zerg. I mean, this is his favorite matchup by far.
Yeah, this is definitely the marquee matchup over the span of StarCraft 2. Like, it's even Brood War. You think back to a lot of the big legends facing off against each other. It's almost always been a Terran and a Zerg standing toe-to-toe. So it'd be kind of cool if they could bring that glitz and glamour here and make it exciting. But, I mean, Solar, again, his style and him and Lucira, it's like when they're winning and doing well, it's almost a little bit boring because they just hit that timing attack that no one's prepared for. Innovation, probably going to be prepared for it.
One would think so. Considering his experience, considering how often they've gone at it, these are guys that know each other inside and out. This is going to be a high-level game indeed. Your King of the Hill, ladies and gentlemen, to the southeast position. And, of course, the person that chose this map in the blue trunks playing Zerg, it is Samsung Galaxy Khan Solar. Versus his opponent in the northwest position in the red trunks playing Terran. The most dominant king we have ever seen in this tournament so far is looking to start his second reign. SKT1 Innovation.
What they bring out here, we do have a gas opening from Innovation, very standard, excuse me. Probably going to see something like a Reaper popping out there, trying to get an idea of what kind of opening we're going to see from Solar. Solar are going to go with, again, the cookie cutter opening from Zerg. Early access to that speed so they can deal with the Reaper and deal with the early game Terran play. Also excited to see when the gold base comes into form on this map. This is one of the maps that has implemented the gold base without getting a lot of salt from everybody else. It's something that, like, that might sound like a silly comment to people, but to be honest, that has been one of the big issues with StarCraft 2 over the time. It's like, gold, that's a really cool concept. Well, every map that's ever used it has been rather shitty about it. Like, it's been imbalanced for one race or the other. However, on Apotheosis, well, too early for me to say a word that complex, but it actually has been fairly good. It's a very nice third. It does expose you. It mines out pretty quick. It makes your natural a danger, as we saw in the previous game. Like, they did a good job.
That they did. Innovation moving across the map with the Reapers. Going to have a look around and see what you can see. There's already some lings on the board to drive that away. But Innovation could do an awful lot with a single Reaper, given the opportunity.
It's kind of it's funny. It's been since Heart of the Swarm that the Reaper early game thing is just a complete formality. If it kills a drone, you'll hear a commentator like a DeMuslim or Nathanius flip out because that's super exciting to them. That's not really what it's meant to do. It's just supposed to show up, kind of make sure nothing weird's happening. It's like the really boring, like, librarian. Like, it comes in and it's like, hey, keep it down, Zerg. Don't do anything exciting. I'm just here to make sure that everything's in order. And as long as things are in order, the game kind of marches on normally into the mid-game. That's ZBT, but that's probably part of the reason why StarCraft 2 players love it so much. It has a lot of the excitement, but a lot of that excitement happens in the mid-game when things get fast and furious.
Innovation
Also a great movie.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
No, 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 you're not going to say that. Now, you could say that maybe, I don't know, the 13th of them. But the first one?
Fair. Yeah, the first one's all right.
First one's great, you know?
You're right.
You're the kind of person that would turn around and tell me that Face Off is a bad movie, and then I'd have to hit you.
We can talk about Nicolas Cage in a moment, but let me ask you this. Knowing that the first Fast and Furious would spawn some of the worst movies of our time that would then gross more money than most movies of our time, do we still think it's a good movie?
I believe it.
Damn,
I do. In the depths of my being, I believe it.
I like it. That's the kind of optimism we need in this world.
And what we've got here, Solar, 3 queens, and adding 2 more. Does love to go queen heavy. And really, against Terran, that it has been the style for quite some time. It works out very, very well. Makes drops very difficult, makes harassment very difficult. And of course, a lot of creep spread means that that big parade push has to start earlier on the creep and is immediately in danger of being surrounded. Gold base is now up, and 4 queens ready to spread as quickly as possible.
Yeah, all these queens with a couple more on the way. Double upgrades going for the Zerg player. Even before Lair instantly saturates that gold. So we're going to see a big uptick in resources coming in. And this is Innovation's moment to say, okay, I got to do something about this. Because if he doesn't, he's going to be in a little bit of trouble. He doesn't have a ton of production behind this. He's just starting his own third, in fact. And I don't know. It's going to be really hard for him to do anything here. He's going to have to be highly mobile. Like, all the queens are here. There are a lot of speedlings. Look at that creep spread by Solar, by the way. The ability to get back into that main is just awesome.
Yeah, it is absolutely crucial, especially against a player as drop-heavy as Innovation. You need to be able to respond to those drops. You don't want to get stuck out in no man's land. Spreading towards the potential 4th base as well, always important. And Innovation will continue to poke, keeps an eye on his opponent. There's not really a lot that he can do here, but simultaneously, by virtue of that, he's keeping the Zerg bottled up and keeping a close eye as well, and trying to deny some of that creep spread in the process.
Yeah, he's got to jump on that train, though. So far, he hasn't done much of any of that, really. Solar's kind of given up his ability to be aggressive, and that's a very common exchange between Zerg and Terran at this stage of this matchup. If they can defend and not have their economy slowed down, and as you said, kind of continue that creep spread out there, which, by the way, with 7 queens, you're going to be able to do pretty well, you're in a good spot. And Innovation's opening doesn't do any of that. I would have liked to have seen him pick off a tumor or two, but I guess he kind of was just like, you know what? With that many queens, what does that even do? Why do I care? So he's just going to pull back, and we're going to head into the mid game.
That's a lot of lings on the ground already. Double upgrades for melee as well here from Solar. This is looking to be like a very classic Terran versus Zerg for the time being.
There he does get those tumors. He's going to push it back a little bit. He's able to pick up here and leave, and that's kind of what I want to see more of. Huge link counterattack coming around. Stim instantly from Innovation. Does he have enough units? These are well-upgraded lings. Keep in mind, they are 1-1 right now.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of lings. Maybe a few too many. And those Widow Mines just like... Oh, there it is. I was about to say slightly out of position, but no, he just got baited hard. And Solar just got put away wet. And Innovation avoids the vast majority of the damage there. That was a really dicey, but very well-executed defense there by Innovation.
Only 3 harvesters killed in that entire
That's ridiculous.
exchange.
Considering the number of lings that were going in there, that is insanely low number. Incredible defense there by Innovation. And now he keeps up the pressure. He keeps on the harass. And he says, you're playing to my tempo now.
These banelings could get picked up. Looks like they will. They're just on move command.
Yeah, not brilliant. That's not a great trade there.
Yeah, it's all right. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it looks silly when it doesn't get executed super well, but it's fairly low on the risk charts for Solar. Like if it kills all the SCVs, which it very reasonably could, then that can swing the game hugely in his favor. If they get picked off like that, not the biggest of deals. So it's a fine exchange for him to make.
Lost 3 or 4. Would be nice to see him use that to try and thin out that Widow Mine count. But regardless, a couple of lings now running in, and this is an exposed area. He should be able to get something out of it, but nope, the response squad is there. The Widow Mines are now in play. And a surround will kill these off. And it's just outside of the range of the Widow Mine here, that engagement. That was very nice. But Solar's about to eat it. Loses a few more lings. The reinforcements will come in to deny the rest of it. And the Banelings get target fired down expertly by Innovation before they hit the mineral line.
Yeah, good counterattack defense from Innovation. He's holding on. Solar's been really committed to this. You'll notice no Spire, no Roach Warren. It's just going to be melee stuff like Ling Baneling. And he's going to try to hold on. And if he can and get to Hive, Innovation's going to be in a lot of trouble. Queen's going forward to try and tank here, but they're by themselves. No, I'd love to see him. Yeah, okay, there's that Overseer. I was going to say, get rid of these Widow Mines for Pete's sake.
Yeah, I mean, losing a Queen to that was unnecessary. I think Solar underestimated the number of mines that were in that field. He sent forward 1 ling and thought, all right, that should be fine then. Loses a Queen, but not a big deal. He gets to clean up on 4 Widow Mines in trade for that. And now it's 1 Queen. It's some minerals. It's not a big deal at all. Solar defending nicely, but so is Innovation.
So far.
Really, neither of these guys has taken any major damage up to this point.
Yeah, it's been a perilous game back and forth, but both of them have avoided the death blows. That being said, though, this is the stage where I feel like Solar is going to be tested the most. Like, all of a sudden, Innovation is on a full 3-base economy. He's taking a 4th. it is still just Ling Baneling before that hive finishes. And in that time, here comes the production.
Yep, and that's that 2-2 time where the Terran just wants to absolutely go for it. Split's pretty damn solid by Innovation. He doesn't lose too much. He still has Widow Mines in play. The huge Ling run by coming in from both sides. Actually, there's a Baneling bust. There is a single Widow Mine that may save the day, and it does. What a shot there by Innovation. In the meantime, the Ling's deflected at the right side, and an attack. But a big Baneling detonation takes out quite a lot of the Marines. They're still going for it, though. The parade push continues. Innovation's going for it.
He's everywhere. He's going to probably lose his 4th base. Nope, the Lings are going to pull back, and he never picked off the SCV, so it's actually going to finish. A pretty big mistake there. Huge drop making its way into the main. I say huge drop. It's just a lot of medevacs. It's actually just 2 medevacs full of units. Sporecrawler is softening this, by the way. All the medevacs taking so much damage. Queens going to try to pick off a few. It looks like they're going to get 1 or 2, and that drop inside the main is starting to do that damage.
That was really expensive from Innovation. I'm very surprised he did that. He didn't achieve much. Losing those medevacs, so key. He's going to need those. I mean, you've got to give him credit for defending on 2 fronts and being able to put a relatively effective attack on. But it's just that loss of so many medevacs.
I didn't see how many medevacs he lost. You're right, John. He lost like all of them except for 1.
Yeah, that was inexcusable because they were empty. They weren't doing anything. He could have easily pulled them back. Okay, sure, maybe sacrifice 2 to do some damage in the main, but those 4 just sitting under the Spore Crawlers and Queens, that was an uncharacteristic error there by Innovation, who up to this point have played an absolute perfect game.
The chaos of this game might have caught up to him, but we're seeing that kind of calm before the storm. It's a 50 supply advance for Innovation. That's because Solar is trying to hold on for those Ultras to come out.
Yeah.
We're going to have that push on the right side here. He's going to push forward. Not a lot of medevacs again, as we pointed out, but a nice Widow Mine hit again. And Solar's going to push forward. That was just kind of the first wave, and he's doing a really good job of this. If he just shoves everything right now, a couple of Widow Mine shots could just annihilate this whole army. He's just trying to buy time.
Absolutely could. There's an attempted Baneling attack here on the left-hand side, and that has resulted in some Lings now getting into the gold mineral line as the push continues. Innovation trying to break this, but there's just so much. I mean, there are so many Queens that unless he gets some really great effective Widow Mine hits, it's going to be very slow going, pushing through this area. And the longer he waits, the worse it gets, because of course the Ultras are on the way.
They're on the way. Only a couple of them, but man, their ability to tank damage is just tremendous and what it adds to this. Baneling hits do connect there, but Innovation with a nice split there at the end is able to push
He might
forward.
have finally broken this. Like, he's got 10 seconds before 3-3. More Widow Mines are deployed. He undeploys to make sure they don't do damage to his own army. Good Baneling connections, however, from Solar, finally, driving the army back. And it looks like Solar may have bought the time he needed.
Yeah, and there are the floodgates. The Widow Mines do get cleaned up in the background. Meanwhile, a 5th base, actually a 6th base, excuse me, for Solar starts to go down. He's going to push out here. He is off creep, so he has to be a little bit careful. But I want to go back to that that moment where the medevacs were lost. Like, even the ones that are here now are also weak. He just doesn't have the number of medevacs he would like to have. It's a pretty good number, but look at how low energy they are because of all the stemming he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, they're also just really expensive units that take time to replace. There's no reason to lose them like that. A big Baneling hit annihilates most of the Terran army. They're going to have to pull back at this point. You know, he was trying to do damage before Chitinous Plating kicked in. Chitinous Plating just kicked in. 3-3 is not done for the Zerg. It's not even started, so that is an advantage that Innovation has. But he has to start adjusting now. And when you lose a bunch of medevacs, that means you're not building Liberators. You're building more medevacs to replace it. I mean, he's gone so bullheaded into this corridor time and time again.
Yes.
Surely this facilitates a change in strategy now.
You'd think so. I mean, he might be just pot committed to this essentially, but his main, natural, and 3rd are now all dried up. He's down to 1 base economy. That's really important because that just means those minerals over there, that's his economy. You could have 500 SCVs there. It doesn't matter. You're capped on what it can bring in.
Yeah.
So he's going to float his main down over, and he needs to hold that base, but Solar's been so committed to counterattacking. I'm worried that if Innovation doesn't do something to defend that, he's going to be on 1 base economy. But
he's finally going to get that hatch. That's a great pickoff. There we go. And he can easily get out of there. Oh, does lose. That was a Widow Mine hit by the looks of it, wasn't it? That took out one of those. He's actually going for Doom Drop into the main?
No, double drop behind the 5th base over there, too. He's just threatening the Doom Drop, which is so good. There's no Corruptors out. Well, as I say that, here come the Corruptors. So the ability to do this is going to be washed up. He might have been trapped, though.
Oh, gets out just in the nick of time by the looks of it. He's switching between it. Those low health medevacs, though, are a huge liability. If he tries to pick up a nose, he could lose everything. He is getting a lot of damage done here on the top of the cliff. That's only a single Ultra, but it's getting transfused to the maximum, and it slaughters the Terran army. Good lord. These guys are stuck. I mean, can they even get out of here? There's so many spores and queens around. There's now a corruptor in the mix. I mean, Innovation basically has to commit and do as much damage with its army now as possible.
There's a single Ultralist. That one guy, still alive, gets another 5 kills there. And now the Corruptors, now the Queens are going to start trimming down this medevacs. Huge push coming out of the left side. Again, Innovation is kept the attention on Solar, so he might be able to. He will be able to get this base. Yes, absolutely.
Bear in mind, during this, you thought, hey, he sacrificed a lot, and he kind of has, and he needs to watch out with those Widow Mines. But he did do a lot of economic damage. Those Banelings take a huge hit. They're all gone as well. They have to, of course, retreat from the Ultralists, but without enough Corruptors to chase them down, it doesn't really matter. A hatchery taken out as well. Economically, Solar is not in a brilliant position now as a result of Innovation's constant pressure.
I think attacking here could be the worst choice he would make, actually. There's a huge army from Innovation that's more than enough to handle this. The mining of that base is going to be disrupted.
I like that run by.
Yeah.
That's a good run by.
Going down here, and actually the entire army of Solar is going to pull back. That is the right choice. And if these Corruptors can get those medevacs, then this is going to be a huge win for the Zerg.
Notice that Innovation is still doing nothing to change technology. He's not thinking about Liberators. He's not thinking about, well, anything else, really.
Oh.
He's relying on the bio, and here he goes right into the middle of that. Does he have enough to break the Zerg army? Good split so far from Innovation. Great split so far from Innovation, and it looks like it was enough, and the Ultralisks are now on the run.
They're off the creep. He's going to try to make a stand here, but I don't know that he has enough. He's going to actually, never mind, scratch that. He's going to forever transfuse those Ultralisks. They cannot die. They will not die. They're pushing forward.
They were overextending there, out of the range of the Queens, but now he realized, and Solar moves them back once again. You know, if he could somehow get to the Queens, that would be great. The Queen energy is getting quite low here, so Innovation can keep doing this. Kites them away from the Queens, off creep. Excellent moves here by Innovation, and takes out Ultralisk after Ultralisk. They still do not have that +3 armor. That makes a big difference when Marines are involved in the mix.
Does, but also keep in mind there's just 2 medevacs now. The Corruptor's presence is being felt. Innovation needing that stim to micro back and survive these fights may become a liability. Only 2 more medevacs coming out. These have no energy. John, he's microed so well, but if he cannot kite the Ultras and Banelings, it's lights out.
It absolutely is. There's no doubt about that. The Banelings move in and don't really get all that much done. A good curve defensively to take out. Oh, and great focus fire on the Banelings as well. He holds that line nicely, and those Queens are now vulnerable.
Queens exposed. He can't stim. He actually doesn't even have the health to do it, but he's going to.
It doesn't matter.
At these guys.
He could crawl in the direction of those Queens and he'd catch them. All the Queens caught out and destroyed. Innovation making it work, and there's the key error here, I think, from Solar is he never got +3/+3.
He never got +3/+3, but also he didn't expand behind this, John. He's down to, you know, that problem I was talking about with Innovation. Yeah, well, that sword can cut both ways. He's only half mining off of one base, and the other one on the right side is drying up as well. Innovation, with a 50 supply advantage, has flipped this game on its head.
Oh, Infesta's being added on into the mix, and a second Great Fungal here as well, allowing these Ultras to really get to grips. It's not quite enough. If that had come earlier, it would have mattered. GG! The king is dead, and Innovation takes his throne back, finally. Everyone else has just been keeping it warm for him. That was a great game from Innovation. A dicey one, I have to admit. I thought he overcommitted multiple times on the, specifically on the right-hand side of the map there, but he made it work.
They delivered, TotalBiscuit. Like, we were hoping that this caliber of player would bring the kind of game that ShoutCraft King of the Hill has been delivering month in and month out, and that was it. Back and forth, the pressure constant. Innovation seemed to be in some kind of trouble. When his bases were drying up, he doubled down on aggression and was able to just, I really feel like the pivotal thing that he just kind of stuck on and wasn't working for most of this game, but when it worked that one time, it worked big, was the aggression on the right side of the map, dropping the left side of the map. Finally getting Solar to just not be able to remake those expansions, re-drone that base, and just kind of stunted his economy and got him tunnel vision and focus on aggression, derailed him from his game plan, which early on was just to hold on to bases, get up to Ultralisk, and tank out the aggression. But Innovation, beautiful splits, Amazing pullback. Great decisions. It was really dicey. I mean, other than losing those medevacs on the right side, you and I were just constantly like, oh god, this could be so bad, but it just almost never was so bad because he just pulled it out each time.
That he absolutely did, and that's why he's one of the best in the world. He can make that kind of thing work. It was a very determined offense, and it was able to eventually crack the nut of Solar. I mean, it was a great game up to that point, both sides playing basically perfectly.
Yes.
MVP's got to go to the Widow Mines, I think, even though there was certainly some friendly damage done. We saw several large clumps of Banelings get obliterated by those Widow Mines. That was a big deal.
But TB, but just a little friendly damage, which is the norm. Like, what can happen, and we've seen it happen so many times, you pick up, and then your own 2 Widow Mines slam into the medevac cluster and destroy, like, 60 supply in one volley. That almost never happened, and it's not by just pure luck, by the way. Innovation was constantly picking up the Widow Mines when it was an unfavorable engage, and then re-burrowing them, and also kiting and spreading his units constantly. Like, I love when we talk up a guy, and then they deliver. That's what Innovation just did. Not to throw shade at Has, but earlier we were like, the Cheese Master, and then it just gets absolutely annihilated, and everyone's like, what are these guys babbling about? But with Innovation, they're like, this guy's a machine god, be ready for Deus Ex here, and then that's what it was. He delivered. He played immaculately.
That he did. And he's going to have to do that again, because his next opponent... oh, God. I mean, oh, God is how I would describe him, especially when it comes to online events, although very recently he's proven that he is by no means a one-trick pony. This is a guy that's also dominated. This is basically king versus king. These are the 2 guys with the biggest streaks in this tournament. They're going to kill each other because it's ByuN.
A reigning champion in his own right.
Indeed, GSL champion.
Did it teamless. I mean, that's pretty impressive. As I understand, he got a team for himself. But the TVT matchup, if we're going to talk about Terran players, this is also a great matchup. Really fun. And as I understand it, that 10-win streak was brought down by ByuN last time. Is that what you said?
It was actually brought down by Hurricane, a Protoss player. However, Innovation did attempt to topple ByuN's streak and failed to do so. He's been showing a very interesting style of Terran versus Terran that he's basically creating his own build and trying to make it work. And so far, it hasn't quite got there. And what I want to do is see if he's managed to perfect it against ByuN. What a perfect opponent to try something like that against. So, ladies and gentlemen, our current king from SK Telecom T1 in the blue trunks, southeast position, playing Terran. It's Innovation. The guy with the longest streak in ShoutCraft Kings history, standing at 10, is now looking to start his 2nd. However, he faces the reigning GSL champion and the 2nd highest streak in ShoutCraft Kings. In the red trunks, now playing for Team Expert, he is ByuN.
The amount of money Innovation has won off of ShoutCraft, do you get to call him an employee by, tax standards?
I was considering, he's an independent contractor, perhaps, at this point.
Yeah, something. There's got to be some kind of write-off we can get here, not to get too political. We do see a double gas from ByuN, obviously going to opt to go the tech route. This is the gentleman's agreement in all of TVT. One will go mech, inevitably. The other will probably go bio. And it seems to be, at least for now, Innovation opting to go into the bio direction versus the factory opening from ByuN.
Which is fairly unusual. Innovation has been showing a cyclone-heavy style in TVT as of late, especially in this tournament and in effectively everything he's been playing. So I would be intrigued to see Innovation be the bio player in this situation.
That would be, it's obviously a little bit of a brand new world for me in that regard. But I do like we have a Reaper coming out from both players. Again, the Reaper kind of relegated to a very interesting role. You don't see a lot of Mass Reaper anymore.
No.
Not quite sure why that came and went or not. But what it does do is just says, okay, what are we doing? What are we facing here? And it's very reliable in a lot of these maps. It has multiple entry points. You can see ByuN right now is going to be scouting for the cheese. But don't be silly. It's Innovation. He does cheese, I'm sure, but he also wins. And he knows that right now, at least on this day in King of the Hill, you do not cheese if you want to win.
You don't. It's so odd that before we started this format, people assumed it would be full of cheese because best of ones. It's actually the exact opposite of that. Because it's best of one, you don't risk that. Like, you're throwing it away. You don't get a second chance.
No. I always like seeing the different philosophies of players kind of come into the different formats. But I might have been wrong, by the way. Innovation is going to go up to a fast starport. Both players actually have very similar units coming out and in a very similar build order. They're separated by a few seconds here and there, but otherwise they both have very similar units. It's going to be a Marine and 2 Reapers defending against... Well, no, never mind. He has his own Hellion as well, and seeing that, I have to imagine ByuN's going to disengage, having only lost temporary health on that Reaper. No big deal.
Yep. No reason to commit any further to that. He knows what his opponent's doing now, and of course, both players are doing the same thing. Getting a starport. The question is, what are they going to build on it? Because that is very well looking like a Banshee or a Liberator. Cloaked Banshee from Innovation.
Okay. One of those things where even if you have like missile turrets or a Raven, the answer for it, it can still do damage. I think that's why a lot of top-notch Terran players do like that opening. Good on the defense, great on the offense. It's just a pretty solid option. On the flip side, though, here from ByuN, we're going to see a little bit more of a kind of a 1-1-1 push. We have a medevac coming out, tank, and additional Marines. Looking to be aggressive, and he's been leaning out that way this entire time, trying to get a feel for what he's seeing. But because he's seeing similar units, I'm sure he's certainly aware of the potential for a Cloaked Banshee. And the timing attack he's doing, by the way, is actually quite strong against this.
Here it comes, the medevac with the tank. Absolutely, you're right. It's going to be difficult. That said, that Cloaked Banshee... Assuming it spots it, which it's not going to by the looks of it, it will be well out of the way. It's not going to be able to contribute to this defense, which is worrying. I mean, Innovation has this Cyclone, which is great, and he's building a second one, but I'm very worried about this tank push right now. That Banshee needs to come back, in my opinion, immediately to help here. It's not going to, though. He's going to go for the base, and Cyclone is locked on, but a lovely pickup there by ByuN. Great way to counter the Cyclone. Of course, is to pick up the unit that's locked onto. The SCVs are now off the line. That tank has got to die. He knows it. He tries to lock onto it. He tries to bring the medevac down. A second Banshee is up. 13 workers killed. In the meantime, though, the Cloaked Banshee of Innovation has been doing a little bit of work. Not a huge amount. It could have gone faster into the mineral line. He's now trying to do that to try and make up. And finally, down goes the medevac. And the attack is shut down, but not before 14 SCVs are killed. The catch-up is coming, but it's too late now. Innovation could have done more in that mineral line to equalize the situation.
I actually had Innovation not grabbed all those SCVs and lost them, as you pointed out. I feel like he'd be in a pretty good spot, but because he did do that, and because the Banshee did limited damage at ByuN's base, just off the back, by the way, of a single Cyclone and like 3 Marines, this game is very much so in ByuN's favor.
Oh, 2 scans had to be used there. That was unfortunate. Innovation knew what was coming, and he tried to preemptively scan. If he'd scanned a little closer to his CC there, then that would have been an absolute kill. No doubt about that. 3 workers killed by that Banshee. The economic divide is not huge, but in a mirror, 7 workers, 8 workers, that can make a difference. And Innovation is somewhat behind at the moment.
What could be nice here is there's another Banshee coming in from ByuN, but the time of the Banshee is come and gone. There's a Raven out there, and now it's Cyclones as well. So the second this is spotted, dead Banshee.
Oh, yeah. That's bargain pickup there for Innovation. He's going to be very happy about that. Shut it down without any damage being done at all. As you said, the time is... ByuN apparently doesn't believe that because he's building another Banshee, but... Yeah, they're not going to get anything done. I don't see any circumstance where that actually works.
No, he's going to... It could be as like a spotter for this force that's pushing out. It's very similar armies again from both players, but a bigger supply advantage for ByuN because of that kind of harass stage going in his favor. He's looking to catch you. This could be beautiful. He's waiting in the bushes. Here comes Innovation, not knowing what's here. And he's dead. He's going to lose both the Cyclones.
That was an absolute disaster. I mean, he had an air unit. He had a Raven. I don't know why he decided to go across the map blind like that. He just lost both of his Cyclones, which... matters so very much. That could be game-ending. We see the auto turrets put down, which does kill the Banshee. Auto turret's pretty good unit now, so that's great. He doesn't have any spotting in the air at this time, and those tanks are going to do great, but a single Cyclone moves in and says, all right, freebies. I want to try and do that and
harass.
Do a little bit more damage, kill some more workers. Why not?
And ByuN already with the supply advantage, now getting just a little bit more. It looks like he could lose both these Cyclones, but you know what? They did their job.
Yeah, for the amount of damage that's being done, I don't think that really matters. Down they go finally. 39 works to 53 now. I cannot overemphasize just how important it was that Innovation ran right into that trap. That completely changed the nature of that game.
Absolutely. I mean, those Cyclones on the defense are so powerful and good at shutting down what's coming, but all of a sudden, both players are going to take their third. Innovation more doing it out of desperation. It's more like, well, I have to. My army's not super amazing, and if you're coming at me again, I'm in a lot of trouble, but if I don't take this third, then I just die anyways. He's going to push out and do just that. It is going to be Bio versus Mech, by the way. We do kind of return back to that. ByuN adding additional barracks, throwing up the production. He has normalized. We're not going to see any more Banshees coming out of him, at least for the time being, especially with that reactor on there. Meanwhile, it's Viking Mech from Innovation.
I'm loving this run by here by Innovation. This could do quite a lot of damage if it's properly
spotted.
Controlled. Absolutely no
Oh,
scouting
no, the
at all.
Hellions, I see. Okay.
Yep, there we go. And he doesn't get as many as I thought. I think he ended up auto-targeting the missile turret, which wasn't ideal, so that's going to get cleaned up. In the meantime, ByuN has a pretty small army that roved across the map and instantly realized, no, that's too well fortified. We can't really get much done there. Would have hoped to see more damage from the Hellion run by.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been nice for Innovation, of course, and ByuN's going to... Looks like an SCV is making its way up there to maybe... Well, it might just be scouting, but this Barracks and the Hellions inform Innovation that he is, in fact, facing Bio. I don't know that that's necessarily going to change much in the way of what he was doing. It's just always going to add more tanks and Vikings, most likely. But we do see that he is starting to get that Blue Flame Hellion. The Infernal Pre-Igniter, wanting to get more potent there. But ByuN, this is the advantage of Bio. You got to take this advantage. You got to be very mobile and try to punish the mech player, and that's what he's going to do here.
Let's see if he can make it work. ByuN's positioning, of course, always stellar, but Innovation no slouch in that regard either, and Innovation is caught up nicely economically. Like, he seems like he's bought the time he needed. The Viking superiority is going to give Innovation a huge edge in this defense. I don't think ByuN's going to be able to creep forward here at all, but there is that drop coming in. Bear in mind, all the defense is concentrated in one place, and there is now a drop into the natural. A siege tank quickly spawns at just the right moment, and they should be able to get a cleanup, but not without losing a tank and 7 SCVs in the process. So this has already been a very damaging drop here by ByuN. 13-14, I mean, the entire worker line just got cleaned up from that.
Yep.
That was an excellent drop, and now ByuN realized, what if I now hit the main? I bet there's no defense there either. And he's right. Innovation is trying to move in for the interception, but he's going to lose yet more of those valuable workers in the process.
Yeah, and you said it, John. Like, what's so nice about this, the damage itself is okay, but you have to take into account that, again, Innovation was already lagging behind economically. And what this also does, what I feel like ByuN can kind of just go ahead and register as law at this point, is Innovation's going to have to slow this game down, remake all those harvesters, turtle to a 4th, but he's going to be the defender. The aggressor is ByuN, which means ByuN can start making some crazy choices, like he's going up to 4 bases. That's not crazy, but let's say at like 5 or 6 bases, he can add like 4 starports and start going battle cruiser or, you know, mass air, something. The ball's in his court.
Indeed it is. That defense is going to be very hard to crack, but ByuN knows he has to consistently threaten it so that he can open up opportunities to drop in other places. We already saw how effective that was. Innovation has a very strong army, but it can't be everywhere at once by any stretch of the imagination. You know, it's a lot smaller than ByuN's, even if it is quite powerful. Here comes the drop once again. Hellion's moving in to clean that up. This shutdown should be a lot better without too much damage being done. Medevac goes down, and everything else is cleaned up here as well without too much being done. He needs to deflect a few more drops to, you know, to that level. You know, allow ByuN to start to bleed out those units and defend effectively.
Yeah, and ByuN's got the tradable army, so as long as he's doing some damage, he's happy with that. But to your point, that wasn't some damage. I mean, it was some, literally, but it just not enough.
No.
More of that is what Innovation's looking for, and you can see him starting to button up. Hellions run by and say, okay, you're up to 4 bases. That's probably what's true. I'm adding my own orbital here as well, and he's going to try to turtle to that 6 o'clock 4th base. But keep in mind, in the exchange between these two different styles, Bio wants to be trading out. You don't want to max out on Bio and just sit there. That depreciates over time. Whereas Innovation, as he creeps up to 150, 160, 170 supply, he can become invincible.
Well, ByuN just threw a massive amount of units at those 4 tanks and did take them out, and has his second army trying to eliminate the other tanks. There's no meat at the front of either of them, so all of Innovation's tanks are getting focused down here. That was an absolutely devastating attack, replacing 9 tanks is
Yes.
incredibly expensive, not to mention unbelievably slow. You mentioned right before that happened that the buyer wants to be trading. Yeah, it can be replaced quicker. That was a lot of valuable stuff that Innovation just lost. That makes him even less capable of defending more expansions. That means it makes it even less capable of attacking ByuN. ByuN's untouchable at the moment.
Yep. There's not even like the threat of being touched, which is kind of nice. That's how untouchable he is. And to your point, tanks get better over time. Like they reach a certain point where there's so many tanks that any attack into them is actually 100% futile. But by resetting that many tanks, the time of which that moment occurs is getting further and further behind.
Well, that base already went up and is immediately under threat. And, of course, the scan goes down. Innovation knows where both those armies are. He knows that ByuN is going to attempt a 1-2 punch, and he has to be extremely cautious. Here comes a quick drop. Good amount of missile turrets there, I have to say, but that was a 3 medevac drop, so damage is going to be done one way or the other. The Hellbats clumsily make their way back there, but not before the entire worker line is cleaned out. All of the static defense gone as well. So that was a big investment there by ByuN, but perhaps a worthwhile one.
Yeah, and just now the Vikings coming over here. They will get the medevacs. This portion of the drop, not super impressive, but killing the natural, very good. Getting past the missile turrets, very good. And almost as important, just keeping Innovation bouncing back and forth, because what we haven't really talked about, but is also very much so a potential storyline here, is ByuN's trading, and that's awesome. But if Innovation mishandles one fight and this bio jumps on top of it, game over.
That's it.
$250 in ByuN's coifers and... Well, not coifer.
Anyway, I mean, keep it where you like, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to judge.
I try to get all fancy and I mess myself up. But ByuN always threatening the win. Innovation defending.
Big volley of tank shots, but that's enough bio to overwhelm that. And again, a trade that ByuN is happy to take because those are so expensive. One survives. And the army up to the top here again is identifying and picking off tank after tank after tank after tank. And that is so very effective. It could be. Yeah. I think he might have cracked him, you know. Oh, he lifts it. He repairs it. Most of those are Marauders. They can't shoot up, but it goes down anyway. Losing the natural. Thankfully, there wasn't really much left to mine there, but you still don't want to lose that regardless. The Hellbats get eaten, and the drop is eventually cleaned, but ByuN is hitting him everywhere, and Innovation's defense is just too thin at this point to be able to effectively push that army away without taking huge damage in the process.
Exactly. I think that might have been that moment we were kind of describing and talking about. ByuN still expanding without any fear of a response to that. And with that trade right there, we're seeing Innovation have a tough time holding on to these bases. He's not even mining his natural. He's floating over his main to do that. His 4th base is down to a single planetary. A couple of tanks making their way over here, but ByuN's going to jump on top of them too.
Yeah, he's all over him, man. I wouldn't want to be a tank driver in Innovation's army. Their survival time is not high. The planetary will stay up by virtue of mass repairs.
Vikings go down there as well, so all of a sudden his ability to control the airspace is almost gone. These 2 tanks can get jumped on. Innovation is having a hell of a time, and I feel like it's coming to an end. Again, the expansion is just crawling around on the northern part of the map. Innovation's heard legends that there is more of a map than just these 3 corners down here, but it's.
I mean, he's right. The problem is ByuN has already claimed it. Like, he's expanding. Bear in mind, there has not been any harass from Innovation in like the last 10 minutes. He couldn't. Not even a couple of Hellions. He couldn't even afford that because he's doing everything he can to defend against the constant assaults of ByuN. ByuN is playing a bruiser style here. He's just beating him on all fronts, hitting him over and over and over and over again. And that planetary may very well finally fall down, and that's like the last bastion of hope here for Innovation. It does hold for the time being, but the tanks are a little bit too late on the deployment to catch the retreating army of ByuN. And would ByuN even care? I mean, that army is very replaceable.
It holds TotalBiscuit, but it holds much like Hodor held the door. Like, it's like, yeah, you did it, but you're going to die. And spoiler alert, I guess, if you haven't watched the whole last season. But I'm okay with that. You should have watched the last season. If you didn't, you're an idiot.
There is one thing I want to point out from Innovation, incidentally, that he is bleeding badly on the upgrade front. He was researching +2 armor, and it actually got picked off at the last second by the drop by ByuN, and he has not started doing it again. And he's up against 3/3 bio. So upgrades-wise, it's not been all that helpful at all for Innovation to not be able to catch up in that respect. These units are not that durable. They're paper thin.
Yeah, I I guess to be the defender, having the attack upgrade is the more important upgrade there, but you are right. That is just one of the many ways that we can see innovation bleeding out something. And there's that drop
That's a
in the
big
main
one.
again. And normally there'd be missile turrets, or there'd be tanks in here or something. There's a couple of tanks, but innovation just isn't able to build up the defenses he would otherwise like. There's no Vikings moving over here to kill these medevacs because they don't exist. He's just having a tough time holding on to anything.
Yep, you got to give him credit for trying to hold on and trying to survive. We have seen Innovation pull back incredible games in the past. The run-by comes in right there. The Buyer are able to eliminate those tanks as well. But I think this might be the bell tolling here for Innovation. Despite his durability, despite his willingness to keep fighting, he is losing every fight. And that's not something you can do when your opponent controls half the map's worth of bases.
No, and here comes the death push. There's just no answer to this. Innovation fought well, but ByuN is in championship caliber form as he marches to victory right here.
Yeah, he's not messing around at all. He has shown no fear against Innovation, despite Innovation's Terran versus Terran being worthy of such. He has shown a complete willingness to constantly attack with gay abandon and do so incredibly effectively. Like, his target fire has been excellent. He's not just A-moving, he's specifically going after the tanks. And there's the GG. A short second reign for Innovation, and so begins the second reign for ByuN.
It's been back and forth, which is awesome. I mean, cool is the storyline of someone dominating. I was, jealously watching in the past when we did have those big win streaks in this tournament, but it's kind of cool seeing someone just put forth such a great effort. That Solar Innovation game is going to be one that I remember for a long time. It was really fantastic, but immediately after that, another good game. But a good game only because Innovation was like white-knuckling holding on. He was never, ever threatening to win that game, but it was like, wow, it's really impressive how you're not dead yet, whereas ByuN is just assailing him from all angles for 20 minutes. It was really fun to watch in that way.
It is quite the thing. Innovation has always been one of the most resilient players, I think, that I've ever seen. And he can pull back from some really bad situations, but that was just a beating he took. And he was not quite able to pull that out. ByuN, of course, as you said, in championship form. His confidence, both in this matchup and just in general as a result of his GSL win, has been astonishing. I think the only Terran he's lost to in recent memory is actually ryung, who is also in this tournament. He lost in the Olimo League finals 3-1. But it was quite surprising. I mean, that game seemed, despite its length, really one-sided.
Yeah. It's funny because that is where the impressive nature of that game comes from. It was just cool how long Innovation didn't die for, and that's it. It's like it was not a competitive game otherwise.
No, it was not. No doubt about that. We're going to take a short break, folks, and we will see who comes up against ByuN. Will they be able to topple him, or will ByuN start yet another streak? He is the terror of online events. He devastated ShoutCraft Kings last month before finally being stopped by Nurchio. Nurchio isn't here anymore. Can anybody stop him? We'll find out after the break. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't want to keep you waiting any longer because ByuN is on the throne and many, many, many brave souls will attempt to challenge him. Can they bring him down? The first person to try will be the one and only Liquid Snoot.
And what a pleasure it is to have him here. We were talking about some of the absolute best foreigners. Certainly Nurchio and Mana are on that short list, probably more so Nurchio. But now we have Snoot, one of the guys that has held that crown, if you will, on the theme of Kings here for a while. It's being contested as we speak, but he's up there. He's one of the most successful foreigners we've ever had, and one of our best chances at taking down someone of the caliber of ByuN.
That is true. Snoot has not had a great amount of success against ByuN this year. He has played several best-of-5 series. One was close, one not so much. We know, of course, Snoot has excellent Zerg versus Terran and could take on pretty much anyone in the world in the right circumstances. But he currently believes that his ZVT is his worst matchup at the moment. He is having problems with it. So he claims, at any rate.
Oh, I mean, if you ask Snoot about his own play, he would tell you he's bad at all 3 matchups at all times.
Yeah, there is no doubt about that. You know, he's certainly a very, very humble
Critical
person. And
Yeah.
very self-critical, no doubt about that. The actual Aligulac stats tracking indicates otherwise. His ZVT is looking pretty damn good. He, in the last couple of months, has been winning the vast majority of his competitive ZVT matchups. If he believes his ZVT is bad, okay, I'm not someone to argue with him, but the stats do say that he is doing just fine right now. So hopefully it's not a psychological thing. Hopefully he's not psyching himself out for a matchup he is more than capable of taking on. Whether or not he's capable of taking on this player, well, that's a different matter entirely, because this player is on a godlike level at the moment. To the northwest position in the blue trunks, your current King of the Hill and GSL champion, making his return to our tournament. He does love the money we give him, because he wins so much of it. It's ByuN. Versus his opponent to the southeast position, in the red trunks, playing Zerg, one of the best foreign Zerg of all time. He is Liquid Snoot.
And we're on a tough map for Snoot, I would say. King Sidon Station, a very good Terran map. In general, Liberators have a lot of kind of angsty angles, but also there is those destructible rocks behind the natural, a very good push point for the Terran player. You can siege from there and cause a lot of problems, or you can push into the natural and third area and offer yourself a splitting area with that chasm, but also just low ground in general, kind of tough. So some immediate challenges, but it's not of the caliber where we're like, well, this map's completely broken. Snoot has no chance unless he does like a Baneling all-in or something like that. The map pool in this day and age is pretty damn solid. Almost every single map is going to give both players a pretty good chance. That being said, though, we have a fast second barracks coming out from ByuN, and what's one of the ways you can be one of the best? Well, you got to add some variety to your play, and we're going to see that from ByuN here.
Yes, ByuN does not just play the same style over and over again. He has a lot of variety because he plays in so many events. It's almost necessary to develop so many different strategies. If you play the same style when your games are so public, you'll be figured out real fast. And yes, you can get away sometimes with mechanics, but think about this. You know, ByuN is an online player. He's used to dealing with lag. That means he can't necessarily rely on pinpoint control all the time. He can't rely purely on mechanics to win. He's got to be creative. He's got to be a master of many styles. That's what makes him truly dangerous.
Yeah, I would say also a master of many styles is a good way to describe that, but also just kind of his aggression throughout all those styles. He's able to come at you in so many different ways that it just makes him a very challenging opponent, because you know you're going to be attacked, you know you're going to be harassed, but from what and where, you have no idea, and it's really hard to kind of figure that out. Snoot, very much so of the kind of foreigner Zerg style, very defensive, is going to go with a speed overlord upgrade very quickly at that natural. I love this. This is going to allow him to see exactly what he's facing, and if he remains vigilant about it, he could pretty much know that at all times, and it's just an awesome opening.
Good. Yep, it's a very good idea, and of course that can also translate into potential drop harass later on.
Sure.
So that's always good. It's always good to have that option. You know, leave it open. If ByuN decides to leave his base too undefended, then damage can certainly be done there. It's a fairly new harassment option for the Zerg player. It makes the traditional Terran wall-off a little bit less relevant. So you can get away with it. You can get away with early game harass, potentially. And I'm sure Snoot knows that, and he's going to keep an eye on it and see if there's an opportunity to make that happen. In the meantime, Roach Warrant on the way. And so far, so standard for ByuN, who is just building a ton of Marines and getting stim. And that usually means just a big double medevac push with stim and a bunch of Marines as early as possible. Adding a Widowmine into that mix is always nice as well. Snoot will certainly need both Roaches and Lings to defend against this if he's not going for a Baneling Nest, which it looks like he isn't.
Not yet. You can always add the Baneling Nest a little bit late. He doesn't have a lair, so he's not hoping for speed Banelings or anything like that, but just a few Banelings to kind of keep the bio running. But it's kind of interesting. You go Speedling Overlord speed upgrade, and then you don't scout at all. Like, Snoot has no idea this is coming. He's scouted the factory, and that's it. I mean, it's one of the absolute essential openings that Terran do. I would say this is like your 3 out of 4 game opener. So Snoot can probably just infer that this is happening, but I don't know why you would go Speed Overlord and then not do anything with it. That seems a little bit silly.
Yeah, he only just poked in with it, and that was then it. He hasn't used it for a drop or anything along those lines. It's in position for a later scout, certainly. But ultimately, this drop currently goes undetected. It will, of course, be seen as it moves on to the creep, so it's great that Snoot had that spread there. Now he's going to have to move into defense. He does have quite a few queens, decent amount of roaches. I mean, this shouldn't really do all that much damage. That was a great grenade, though. That was excellent use of that, and it really matters because all of those units are slow, and as disorganized as they were, they lost a couple of seconds of being able to shoot, and that means a couple of extra drones died. So don't underestimate what that grenade actually accomplished.
I know. That was actually kind of impressive how a single grenade actually transformed that fight. Snoot showing good patience, though. He doesn't just lurch forward, and had he done that into that grenade, it actually could have... I mean, it goes from him just like how much damage does he take in this harass to maybe losing the fight, but it doesn't happen. He gets another creep tumor here, scans to kill more, and this is kind of what I was talking about earlier from Innovation versus Solar. This is what this is meant to accomplish. Like, if you're going to lose a bunch of drones, sure, ByuN will take that. He'll take the win. But what it probably does is slow down the creep, keep the Zerg occupied, and just allow the Terran to decide whether or not they're going to jump on top of this. Well, ByuN, that decision was made pretty much at his birth. Here he comes, 2 tanks, and it's going to be from that angle we talked about. Having shoved the creep back, he's going to have a tough time holding here. He did drop the rocks, but it's still just a very tough angle.
It's a big army. Roach speed is not close to being done yet. +1 carapace isn't close to being done yet, which is a key upgrade when you're going roach heavy against a bunch of marines, especially unupgraded ones. If he can hold on until that's done without taking too much damage, he should have a decent shot at defending this. But if ByuN just goes, this is going to be a hard hold.
So far, he's just gotten the gas, which is not the biggest of deals. It's any kind of drone count or, of course, the lair itself.
Look at that main. He split the army up. He put the pressure here on the natural. He's probably going to kill the lair in the process. He's going to force a massive defense, and in the meantime, he's going to do damage to the main base because Snoot knew he couldn't let that lair go down. He takes a ton of shots on the way in as well, thanks to the tank positioning, and those marines, they're going to kill the main hatchery.
Yeah, and that is going to be really tough for Snoot to come back from. The army even just comes back to the natural. Snoot's just not fast enough to keep up with this army, and ByuN is just everywhere at once. He picks up, goes to the third. Guess what? There's no army there either.
No, there isn't. And these roaches are just getting devastated by repeated tank shots. He can't even get to grips with them. He doesn't have enough Ravagers. The cleanup finally happens. An incredibly costly one. He does get something as it moves out, but takes yet more tank shots. And, of course, now the third is under threat as well. The economy of Snoot is an absolute mess. Great bile shot, at least, that something goes in Snoot's way. But, I mean, God's sake, losing your main hatchery before the 10-minute mark? That's disastrous.
I mean, those 2 tanks are doing so much damage. One has 17 kills. The other one has just 6. They pick up, they leave. They can repair if they want to really be in try-hard mode.
God,
He's
that
actually going to
hit
lose
was
the spawning
excellent.
pool, maybe?
He very well might, and he needs...
It's melting.
It is. The creeps all receded. You know, the Roach Warren is going to be losing HP as well. These are key buildings, and he needs to build units right now to defend. He can't afford to put down another hatchery. It's finally committing his queens to driving those units away. Good lord, this is a... the only thing I can say for Snoot right now is he's lucky his lair wasn't in his main. Now, losing the tech...
Well... You know what's interesting about that? The lair has more health, so
it does.
The only reason this natural's even alive is because
the pool
it was a lair.
just died. Straight up just died from having no creep there. There's no attempt to even spread... He just GG's out. That was an absolute disaster for Snoot.
It's only a best of 1, but I do have to say, like, ByuN did not pull any tricks out here. This is very much
super
so
standard.
The standard opening. It is a tough map, though. We say that from the very beginning, and we can see why. That angle... so hard to defend, picking off 4 or 5 creep tumors before the fight even began, slowing down Snoot in that way was just rough. And I don't know, you know, we'd have to ask a Zerg or Terran expert, but it felt like Snoot's tech choice to go Roachling Ravager against specifically what he was facing. I'd be curious to hear if it's execution or if it's composition, because it just felt like he was always lagging behind. He would show up after the tanks had pulled away, they'd come back, they'd do more damage. It never seemed like he had the answer, and I wonder if that was execution or if that was army comp.
It's hard to say. He just didn't look confident in that matchup, but maybe what he was saying was right. You know, he's having a mental issue with this matchup right now, even though statistically he's been doing just fine in Zerg versus Terran lately. ByuN dismantled him. It wasn't even close.
It made for a rough game. That'll happen, especially when you have 2 top-tier players. Like, if there's blood in the water for ByuN, look out. I mean, look at innovation. We're marveling at how long he was able to hold on, but he was just holding on. He was getting, as you said, a beatdown for like 20 minutes straight.
That's what he does, and I've got to admire ByuN's tank positioning was impeccable. Just perfect. Like, what a really well-staged attack. Positioning was out of this world, and it was so hard to drive those tanks away. I mean, I think they actually survived the whole game. They never died.
No. And they did their job, I'll tell you. One of them had nigh on 30 kills, and a lot of that was roaches. Yes, some of it was lings, but it's just very well played by ByuN. Very well played.
Yep. A devastating loss for Snoot, unfortunately, who doesn't get much done. There are, of course, more foreign players waiting in the wings to try and take on these guys, but they might be hiding from ByuN at this point, and I don't really blame them.
No. Neither do I.
Now, he is that damn good. Now, while we're waiting for our next player, I did mention earlier that we're going to be giving away a few codes for some announcer packs. We have 5 codes for the Abatha announcer pack. And we have 5 codes for the new Nova Commander for the co-op mode. Now, if you want to be eligible to win, then you simply go on Twitter and tweet something which includes the hashtag ShoutCraft Kings. Simple as that. Doesn't matter what it is. Tweet something with the hashtag ShoutCraft Kings, and then in a couple of hours or so, we will pick 10 random winners from that hashtag. Of course, also use the hashtag to discuss what's going on in this tournament. Great place to connect with other fans of the game and of the tournament. Hashtag ShoutCraft Kings on Twitter. We'll be doing the giveaway for those a little bit later on in the show. All right.
What do we got, John?
ByuN's looking pretty good. No doubt about that. And you know I'm a little bit of a fan of the Terran versus Terran mirror matchup, especially when it involves ByuN. He is that damn good at it. Incredibly good at it. So, I present to you our next challenger. Always puts on an interesting game. Always entertaining. You never quite know what to expect with this guy. So, hopefully that will result in an explosive matchup. They've faced down many times before. And it's always been entertaining. So, I bring you MVP Gumiho.
The Sweat Terran himself.
Tal Terran, indeed.
I like it. ByuN, kind of the modern day Gumiho in a lot of ways. Very creative, very different, very aggressive. But I feel like much more polished. You know, the results kind of show that as well. Gumiho, though, is just one of those Terrans where it's interesting. Like, a lot of people just kind of always kind of, when people regard him or talk about him in the various GSL runs he's had and in the various tournaments he's played in, it's always been like, you know, he's pretty, yeah, he's really good, he's scary, but, you know, such and such, way more scary. And then Gumiho has those quote-unquote upsets time and time again because he's willing to lay it all on the line. It's not, nobody would necessarily call him like a super cheesy player, but I think you'd be remiss if you didn't describe him as very aggressive. He's also someone that wants to play on your half of the map all game long.
Yes, he does. You know, he's also been known for his mech play. He gets very creative in that regard. His recent Terran versus Terran form has been a little off. It's actually been his weakest matchup. He's been a monster against Protoss lately. 73% win rate in competitive games. That's ridiculous. That is unbelievably ridiculous. But he has had at least some success. He's been able to recently defeat Ryung and Alive. He did go down 1-2 very recently. Today, in fact, against TY. I believe that was probably in the qualifiers. Yeah, it was in the WESG qualifiers. He faced off against TY and narrowly lost, which was certainly unfortunate for him. But he's more
TY
capable.
is on that short list of some of the best Terrans.
TY is
absolutely
god tier. No doubt about that. He will be here in just a moment. He's just having a couple of issues connecting to Battle.net. But ByuN could very well be the guy that sits on top of the throne today. We've had a very, let's just say, inconsistent tournament so far. We've had not very long streaks, not very long reigns at all. Players just beating other players down very easily. Nobody really managing to get into their rhythm. Nobody managing to really get any momentum.
Not yet. We did have a couple of great games. I am, like I said, that Innovation Solar game. If anyone listening to this somehow missed that, I'm sure that'll be on TotalBiscuit's YouTube channel. You should definitely check that out. Innovation Holding On against ByuN was kind of a fun game, but it was not the back and forth battle that was the game before that. Otherwise, I agree with you, though. We've been like, this guy is amazing, and then 5 minutes later, they're just getting absolutely ramshackled, and we're like, okay, well, you'll have to take our word for it.
It can happen.
But I kind of like that, though, to be honest. We're seeing a lot of names cycling in here. I'm sure you're getting nervous because we're churning through your list in record time. This could be a...
It's actually good for the Koreans. They prefer that because, you know, the Koreans later aren't going to have to wait up quite as long, so... That's not too bad. If the early games go quick, that's not a big deal. We're going to see...
Well, it depends on the Korean, though. Like
less grumpy Koreans is always good.
These guys all want to win 15 games in a row, so they're not happy that they're winning $250 back and forth, I'm guessing.
No, the payouts have not been great for them yet. That said, we do have some phenomenal players waiting in the wings. That some have already been announced, of course. I mean, we have KT Stats for the first time. He is lurking, waiting to strike. I mean, that guy has had one hell of a year.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays. Yeah, he really is. I mean, statistically in Pro League, he was #1 player. He played really well in Casper Cup. He has had some phenomenal results. We also, of course, announced SKT1 Sue, who has not appeared in this tournament before. Hasn't had the best of years, but can really pull it out when it matters. You know, that may very well be a rebirth for him. We have certainly seen that in this tournament. Innovation had a rough year, and then this tournament has really been his renaissance. Admittedly, he hasn't been able to repeat his success up to this point, mostly because of ByuN being ByuN, but that 10-win streak was incredible from him. He showed some really, really great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's $2,500 in an online competition that he's playing from the comfort of his own home. I don't know that that's ever happened before for anyone, really.
I don't think so. Not certainly in that limited time, but it's so impressive to see anyone be able to actually streak in a tournament like this. I think perhaps people underestimate the difficulty of beating that many opponents in a row, knowing every match could be your last.
Yeah, and different servers. That's a big deal, too. Like, nobody really wants to talk about that because that's not as fun, but it is impressive to not let that get under your skin and to remain mentally strong and good enough to overcome that. But also, the tier of players we're playing against. These are best of ones, while it's consistently remaining at the top. We don't have... I mean, I guess you'll have to tell me. I don't think you've done this, but it hasn't been like, and now... Whiterun! And like he comes out, and it's like very obvious he's going to get absolutely slammed. It's been champion after champion, top tier foreigner after top tier, and the guys that are able to string it together are really making a name for themselves.
Yes, they
on
are.
Top of a great name, of course.
Yeah. In other tournaments, sometimes you get your first few matches and they're against people that are clearly not on your level. That does not at all happen here, ever. These are all the best, the absolute best. We're going to see him play right now. Gumiho has finally arrived! Looks like these guys are ready to rock and roll, and here we go. It's going to be on Frost LE. Nice big map for a TVT. Anything can happen. Especially when Gumiho is involved. This should be an exciting game indeed.
Yeah, the interesting element of it being a true 4-player map, you'll sometimes see people opt for that, town hall structure first, the fast expand. But again, with both these guys being as aggressive as they are, I don't know that we'll see that. I'd be very surprised.
It would be a little bit of a surprise, no doubt. But Gumiho is full of those. You can never quite predict what he's going to do. Alright, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, your current king of the hill. I believe the only person today to actually manage a 2-map streak. It's been that competitive. And of course, the second longest reigning king in this tournament up to this point. The GSL champion in the blue trunks on his new team, Team Expert. He is ByuN. Versus his opponent to the southwest position in the red trunks. He is often known as the Towel Terran. He's MVP Gumiho.
And just so people know, by the way, when they're like, I'm guessing a lot of people are a little bit more casual viewing audiences of this. Of course, there's plenty of hardcore. When we call him a Towel Terran, He literally I don't know if suffer's the right word, but
he has a condition.
He has a condition that he produces a lot of sweat in his hands in particular. When you're playing a lot of StarCraft or playing intense StarCraft, you're going to sweat anyway. So that can make playing actually very hard to do over the course of a tournament. So he literally takes a towel, puts it over his hand, and puts that over the mouse and plays through a towel. There's nobody else that does that, guys. It does not enhance your ability to play. It's not good. But when you see this guy micro the way he does, when you see him control his army, just know there's probably a towel in between his hand and the mouse, and that is pretty cool.
That is the story of the legendary Towel Terran, and somehow he plays at top level doing that, which that almost sounds like playing with an oven mitt on. It would be difficult. Now, here's an interesting thing. We've got Gumiho going right for the factory, as does ByuN, bearing in mind they both went refinery first. I mean, do you expect perhaps Cyclone openings in TVT have become a little more popular lately, as we've seen?
It can be Cyclone. I mean, the obvious kind of really non-committal answer is it could be anything, TotalBiscuit. There's all the gas in the world. But
there is a bit of a difference between the gases, though. Look at this. ByuN is only he's got both extractors up, but he's only mining one from each, whereas Gumiho is mining two.
That's where we need, like, maybe in future, 2017, we need Nathanius as the sideline reporter to go to explain this shit, and then just be able to shut off his mic the second it gets way too complex, because I have no idea why you would do this.
Well, what it's allowed Gumiho to do, now that he's up to a full 3, is to go straight into a starport immediately. Whereas ByuN has not. ByuN went reactor, and...
with the faster expand.
Yep, with the faster expand. So we're seeing an aggressive tech option here from Gumiho versus that expand option with a bit of a smaller army and some Hellions for map control from ByuN, which seems like it makes the most sense on a map of this size.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to put him in the defensive posture. I'm kind of wondering what the second gas did for him early game, or if this is like a on-the-fly choice. I don't feel like you need one SCV on both gases to get this faster expand, so
no.
That's why I'm kind of like, I don't know that this is mega optimized, and I'm wondering if this is him making an in-game choice, because he didn't scout anything either.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
A little bit confusing.
Yeah, I don't ever really see a reason as Terran anyway to do that. Cool, it's nice to have both your refineries up, but if you're only going to use one SCV in each, not only is that additional cost building a refinery that's not being optimally used, but that's also an extra SCV that's having to build it and isn't mining early on in the game. So I don't know. I don't see a reason to do that at all. So you're probably right. It sounds like he was going to do something and then he changed his mind.
Which does happen, especially in these best of ones again, where, let's keep it real. It's not the GSL finals, so this guy has not been planning out this moment in time for like 2 weeks in advance. But it is a top-tier competition with a lot of money on the line, so he really wants to win. So he's just kind of saying, okay, he's seen me play a TVT just earlier before. I'm going to change it up a little bit, play it a little bit different. He's moving out here with a very unusual attack. It's going to be 2 Reapers, 2 Hellions, a medevac. We saw the 4 Marines. We actually saw this timing attack, earlier.
We did.
And Gumiho's moving out. If he doesn't intercept, it's actually going to be like trapped out here, and it could be pretty bad.
I do like this Cyclone. I really like this Cyclone here from Gumiho. It may very well allow him to... And that was a great grenade as well. Excellent little initial engagement. Here comes a Cloak Banshee on the defense. And here comes another Cloak Banshee on the offense. And ByuN is absolutely unprepared for Cloaked Banshees in his main. So this is working out pretty damn well already.
Yes.
Gumiho's trying to shut this attack down. The Cyclone and the Reaper proving hugely effective. That was an incredibly good defense from Gumiho. That attack was completely deflected. Yes. In the meantime, Gumiho's been causing economic panic over here for ByuN. The vast majority of these SCVs aren't mining. That's a huge deal. Oh no, and he tries to go for the Cyclone. He's got the Sport, and finally he brings it down. But yeah, even though there weren't all that many SCVs killed, those SCVs were doing nothing for a significant amount of time.
It's the 2 Cyclones, and I feel vindicated, TotalBiscuit. We talked about this. Picking off those 2 Cyclones in that game between Innovation and ByuN was night and day. All of a sudden they live, and now look at the difference.
Yeah, and now Gumiho's getting super aggressive with a double Cyclone, but they weren't. It would have been nice if it got repaired, but the Banshee is going in after the other Cyclone. It gets it as well, and just gets out with 1 HP. Man, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal to these SCVs if you ask them. It's just
Absolutely.
2 health.
Time to get out of there. All your vehicles are on fire. There's a missile turret, thankfully, so finally that Banshee goes down. Man, aggressive punches traded one way or the other, but so far, I'd say Gumiho has had the better end of the defense. His Cyclone play has been excellent. That second Banshee coming out at just the right time, and clearly not something that ByuN was expecting. Resulted in an initial rout on that first attack with minimal damage done. Gumiho looking solid going into the mid-phase of this game. He needs to fix up that Cyclone. Another bit of Banshee harassment. That's going to be shut down pretty easily. The Raven's out now, so the era of the Banshee has come to an end. Down it goes. Both Cyclones survive. Can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, it looks silly, so a lot of people are going to look at that and be like, why don't you just get out of there? You can't. The range and speed of the Cyclone means that it's going to chase you to the edge of the base, and in that time do enough damage to kill you. So you might as well attack the Cyclone and hope they don't repair it, but Gumiho is so on top of his game. He's repaired all the damage back. It's as if nothing ever happened. He's adding additional factories, so we will see that
full-on
mech
mech
play from him.
Yep, armory plus that. And why not? You know, you already have a little nest egg of 3 Cyclones. That's great. You can expand that, assuming you don't get them blown up in this attack right here. The auto turret placed down. The Raven, of course, detects the Banshee, gets rid of that. ByuN is continuing to be aggressive. I don't think he can break that, not with 3 Cyclones in the mix, although there is that tank. And, of course, this fourth base from Gumiho. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It is the third base. Sorry, I thought it was the fourth. Yeah, you can make that third go away. I don't know if Gumiho can stop that from happening. I think the best option right now is just to take off. But he wants to hold them there for as long as possible. He locks onto the Cloak Banshee there with the Cyclone. Cyclone's locked onto 3 different targets. Banshee is down. Auto turrets used to drive back the tank as well. He thinks he can defend it. I think he's taking a gigantic risk. I'm pretty sure he's...
Yeah.
Oh, all right, here's the lift. He brings an additional tank. Down goes the medevac, focusing. Down the tank, the Cyclone from extreme range. Gumiho defends it. That is gutsy. That was really gutsy and well done by him.
Got a little bit of the sweat flowing, did it there?
Yeah. That made me sweaty, man. It's... Jesus.
Casters, maybe. We'll see, but he drops the mule. So the advantage of the third was something that ByuN had to try to shut down. He felt like he was behind, but not by that much. I gotta say, I don't know how he defended as well as he did, but it wasn't that bad. But losing all the forces there all of a sudden does dip that supply advantage in favor of Gumiho pretty significantly. Now, as I say that, the bio building is ramping up for ByuN. So he was kind of saving up. This happened, and now it's going to start showing up. But in that time, here comes Gumiho again trying to just kind of mitigate the mining of ByuN. It's a really nice play.
Yeah, the tanks are in position to stop any damage from really being done, but that is still wasted time, especially with mules. You don't want mules off the mineral line. They're on very limited time in the first place, so that's never good. But I do like the harass here from Gumiho regardless. Don't let ByuN just get away with it. Absolutely try and poke, find out how many tanks he's got, find out where they are, and ultimately, if the tanks are in his base, they're not in your base. So that's always nice.
They're going to see a return to that game where it is going to be the ever-aggressive ByuN trying to keep the mech player on his back foot, but wait. No, we're not going to see that.
No,
Gumiho's
we're not.
Pushing out. He says, I know that I'm weak if I'm on the defense, so I'm going to be the offensive player. This fourth base could just be a pipe dream. It's going to be Hellbats being dropped on top of the bio, a really strong composition, with the tank supporting.
Yeah, bear in mind, of course, Combat Shield isn't done either, which means dropping Hellbats on top of Marines is even more effective. And the march of the mech begins right here. There are 2 tanks up on the top that do need to be dealt with immediately. The auto turrets are put down to do it. Lovely use of the Raven right there by Gumiho. Gets the sight on his opponent, takes out the tanks as well. This is an exceptional mech attack. And this has put the third base under dire threat here as ByuN is forced backwards once again.
Gumiho's aggression is amazing to watch. The SCVs are going to get full. It's going to be here now. ByuN trying to come in from multiple angles. Might be able to, quote-unquote, clean this up, but it's hard to describe it that way because it feels like...
He lost 19 SCVs, and most of the tanks and all the medevacs got out, so... And look at how badly bruised ByuN's army is. And it only has 1 medevac. I mean, this Marauder's just getting blown to pieces here. Yeah. Gumiho evacs yet again. He's streaming reinforcements across the map. Hellions can get there very quickly. He's adding Vikings in.
He's got to be careful, because he doesn't have the insulation for these tanks as well. It is 3 tanks, and they hit hard. But if this Bioforce gets big enough, it can just do this, and it's run forward. got to remain stimmed, because if these tanks drop on that soft bio, it could just go away. Knowing that ByuN continues to push forward, and all of a sudden, it's Gumiho on the back foot a little bit here.
Most of the tanks are still airborne, though, and the majority of that force is Marauders. They don't shoot up, and the overstimming with the lack of medevacs is causing that Marauder force to be very vulnerable to potentially just like one big tank shot in the middle, blowing a large number of them up.
Right.
So, Gumiho, yeah, sure, he loses Hellbats on the ground. I don't know if he's too concerned about that, as long as he keeps the tanks alive. And now he has a dominant air force. I don't think there's any way those medevacs are going to get shot down now at this point.
Right. Right. And well, okay. So if that's the case, and you're ByuN and you're in a tough spot, you got to go back to your old tried and true, and that's just remain aggressive. Got 3 medevacs making their way to the southern part of the map, but look at how good Gumiho is about kind of putting out those forward scouts. Yes, we have a sensor tower at the third, but we also have a floating barracks in the lower part of the map. We have depots on the left side. It's very hard to sneak a drop in on him when he plays like this.
Great play by ByuN, though, to use a supply depot wall here, knowing that that's a very vulnerable place for a run-by up to the north position. Really great preparation. ByuN sees the barracks, drives it away, but that's given warning to Gumiho to move into position. It's a lot of Marauders threatening his ways. You know what? No, not a good idea. He's seen me. He knows where I am. This is the kind of time where I want to see the 1-2 punch from ByuN. You know, he's often so effective at threatening to attack one location, then hitting the other. I don't know if he has a big enough army to do that.
Yeah.
But obviously against a mech player, exploiting that lack of mobility is a big deal.
That is what he's going to try and do. Just now, by the way, his 1-1 upgrade's finishing. Oh, no, those are 2-2. Excuse me,
Yeah.
it's 2-2. My bad.
That's actually
but that was also something that got stunted there as well.
Yeah, it is a big advantage, though. We only see +1 attack from the mech player. And +2 is a little far away. Perhaps ByuN would like to take the fight with the 2-2. Oh, he's getting in. All right, okay. But there's just so many tanks. It's going to be so... Even with that many Marauders, that's a big clump of stuff to get shelled. And
yes,
there's a big lack of Marines here compared to the number of Marauders. And this air control is just giving Gumiho such incredible zoning capability. Not to mention the fact those medevacs from ByuN are at great risk.
Yeah, I feel like ByuN, his army style right now doesn't want to be standing toe-to-toe with that of Gumiho. Like,
no.
The amount of Hellbats he has in tanks, if they do a straight-up fight, the Vikings will kill everything in the air, obviously, but I'm pretty sure the tanks and Hellbats will kill everything on the ground, too. So, ByuN getting called out in the middle of the map there, a little bit unfortunate for him. I feel like he needs to be threatening the left side, the right side, that kind of thing, but as you can see, those sensor towers on the minimap mean that Gumiho knows well in advance when he's in that position and can go intercept. So eventually, ByuN's going to have to do a straight-up fight.
But against that many tanks, wow. I mean, +3 attack is coming in here. It's going to be difficult.
Oh,
I mean,
drop.
Here it goes. And can he do a lot of damage with it? Nope. The Hellbat response team did a great job cleaning it up before foregoing. But a big drop on the tanks is going for it.
No.
This is a huge risk one way or the other.
Not gonna work.
No, and he's backing off, and that's a problem because there's both Vikings and Liberators chasing that away. That air dominance coming into play. ByuN made an error. He does get out without losing too much, but it's like, no. Now Gumiho has been triggered to attack, and he has a huge army advantage. I feel like that 4th base dies right now.
Got an army advantage. He's always had.
Oh, that was a good move from ByuN, killing a good amount of siege tanks, but now everything else is sieged up, so you can't get in there. You cannot. And with so many Vikings in play, the medevacs can't get close. The tanks get full range. This is an ideal position for Gumiho to fight. He knows it. The Hellbats tank it, and the siege tanks bring down the rest of the bio. He is doing significant damage. The Hellbats made their way into the 4th base and incinerated the mineral line. ByuN is in a lot of trouble. His army is out of sorts and outgunned in every possible respect. Forward go the Vikings again. It's astonishingly good. That was one hell of a game. That is how mech should be played in TVT. And Gumiho knocks ByuN off the throne again. We only have a streak of 2 wins. Good lord.
And it's interesting, too, because they got about to it in a little bit different ways, but it's very much so, we kind of go back to this, but it was that Innovation ByuN game where, again, picking off those first 2 Cyclones meant a very different opening, where Innovation is just completely on the back foot, the tanks were never in the really right spot, but because Gumiho had a fairly stable opening, against that bio opening of ByuN, he was able to be, he was the driver. He was the one dictating the pace. Every single time those drops tried to get Gumiho on his back foot, in come the speed medevacs dropping Hellbats and acting as kind of a response force. It was very cool. A very kind of small difference between him and Innovation's play, but what an impact it made, because all of a sudden ByuN was like, wait a second, I can't drop, I can't really harass. Your army's mech, it's the same size or bigger than mine. Well, I'm dead. And that's exactly the way it played out.
Impeccable mech play. I haven't seen mech play that good in a TVT in quite some time. I always knew Gumiho was capable of it. We've seen it. We've seen those flashes of brilliance from Gumiho, but a lack of consistency, perhaps. In that game, though? Yeah. No, that wasn't even close. ByuN could not find a way in. The initial engagement went horribly for ByuN, that first attack. It failed completely to do any damage. It was shut down, and I felt that like the momentum had really shifted into Gumiho's court at that point, and he controlled the rest of the game beautifully.
He did. He just absolutely dominated ByuN, and we saw ByuN dismantle Innovation. He just recently won a GSL. He's a pretty good player. I mean, again, it's just one game, so it's not like all of a sudden we're like, hey, Gumiho's the best in the whole world. It's not like that. But at least in that one game on this day, he destroyed ByuN and looked very good doing it. Very cool.
That he did. That he did. That was a really, really good showing there from Gumiho.
Well, who do we have next? Who's going to stand up to Gumiho? Who's going to take on the Towel Terran himself?
Well, honestly, I've been saving a selection of some of our most deadly Protoss for this kind of situation. And I think we might put one of those out. That sounds like a good idea.
What we got? Bring forth our new challenger.
That I absolutely will. These guys have faced each other a good few times in Pro League. Our upcoming player is in fact a ShoutCraft champion, known perhaps for his smile and his good manners. He is the one and only CJ Enters Hero.
Oh, literally an assassin. I like it.
Smiling assassin, brought in to dispatch the usurper, Gumiho.
Definitely one of those, again, champion caliber Protoss players. Very much so, can do it all. Strong micro, good macro. Can he pull off a timing attack? Can he be cheesy? Yes. Does he have to? No. Can he go the distance? Absolutely. And he's done it on all stages, which is kind of cool too. He's one of those guys that wins in Korea, in Pro League, and everything else, but also abroad. He's gone to international tournaments, namely IEMs, where he's collected gigantic checks and done very well there as well. So it's very cool to see such a nice, awesome guy with such a deadly level of gameplay.
Now, here's an interesting stat for you. A few days ago, in Le Fan Cup number 156, he actually lost 2-1 to Gumiho. Very recently.
Chance for revenge, then.
A chance for redemption. In fact, in the last couple of weeks, his versus Terran form has been uncharacteristically poor. So, hopefully, Hero will be able to turn that around, to turn those fortunes around here. He has been playing against, like, it's not like he's been playing against slouches. He played against Maru, ByuN, and Gumiho, like three of the best in the world. So yeah, losing to those that's not indicative of much, but no. Hero is, as you said, a championship caliber player. He is cool under pressure. He is a leader. He is a captain on his team. He is battle hardened in Pro League. He has had incredible seasons there, being the ace for his team, being one of the top performers of all time in StarCraft 2 Pro League, so it will be interesting to see how he does.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this. I believe this is our first PVT of the day. And right now, Terran they've had a resurgence. They definitely are throwing a few different things at Protoss, but namely their 1-base and even 2-base timing attacks have become, again, very popular, very hard to hold off. I'm, of course, talking about Marine tank early game play aided by eventual Liberators. We've seen it be in the full all-in mode. We've seen it be in the harass mode. But it's become a little bit of the norm. Don't know that we're going to see that necessarily this game, but it's been giving Protoss players fits. So I'm kind of excited to see if that is what we face and what Hero does to counter that.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued. Absolutely. It's going to be a great PvT, no doubt, because our current king is Gumiho to the southwest position from Team MVP. Their sponsor, Chicken Maru. It's great in many ways. What can I say? He is in the red trunks. He's playing Terran. He is fueled by delicious white meat. In the process, he will attempt to take on CJ enters Hero to the southeast position, playing Protoss in the blue.
Everybody knows that. I don't necessarily know that it's fried, but when I was in Korea, I did not know how incredibly popular and prevalent the love for fried chicken was in Korea.
Yes, massive. Korean fried chicken is awesome. Absolutely incredible. I think the only time I ever had it was I was casting at MLG in New York, and we all ended up at the fried chicken place, just the Korean fried chicken place, which is awesome because you just hit a button and chicken appears. It's great. You don't have to do anything. People come with chicken.
That sounds like a fairly dangerous combo in America, I would imagine. I'd be hitting that button probably to the point of my stomach literally exploding.
I think that's why they put it in New York and then made it more expensive than any other chicken ever.
Yes.
I think if you put it in one of the cheaper states at a cheaper price, then yes, that would be a recipe for disaster.
Oh my god, you said a recipe for disaster.
I did.
The puns today are incredible.
They're on another level. They always are. They have to match up with the level of the games that we're seeing right now. These guys are super high level. They are the best of the best. You know, this is not an online tournament with the dregs. No, this is an online tournament with people that win championships and play in the biggest events in the world. They just happen to want to also play here because it's a great format. There's a lot of money on the line for not a lot of time, but as they have discovered, this is not an easy payday.
Oh, you know what this is?
I am not 100% sure, but
rush. Oh,
the good old Heart of the Swarm poke with the Protoss.
Well, kind of. This is a different beast.
Yeah, this has got a pylon in
by
it.
the way. Low ground expansion, that's a huge deal. If an SCV doesn't complete that, it's just lights out. The SCV is just tweaking out at the bottom here. And here comes the Western Core, aided by a Stalker. I was wondering what this low ground gateway was. And he's going for it. He's going to pull up here. SCVs are going to try to repair. But with that reactor and with that tech lab, for right now, there's no military units in there.
Yep. Activate the pylon cannons. Hero is going to do that. Oh no, that is not what you want to get sliced to pieces. The pylon cannons activated. We are seeing a pylon rush.
He's going after the tech lab. That's a bit of a weird choice because it's almost. I mean, I think he's worried about a tank, but like.
No,
he sees it building something, so at least a tank is already queued up. So it's not. He's not preventing anything.
My God, the Reaper's having to come back to defend. You know, bear in mind the Reaper could have had pretty much free reign, but you have to micro it so much to make that happen. And micro against this is going to be even more difficult. The Cyclone does come out. He's actually researching the Magfield Accelerator as well, feeling that might be the way to go. The pylon on the top is finally taken out, and of course the Mothership Core is going to have to back off here as well.
I think it's not working.
I don't think so. It has not done enough damage, I don't believe. I mean,
no, there's no natural. He's gonna have a gateway, but without that gateway finishing on the low ground here, the warp-in time would be suicide.
Yeah, I mean, that pylon will die before the warp-in even happens. Okay, the Stalkers are nice, but like once you have a second Cyclone now, even with one Cyclone, those Stalkers are gonna get melted. I mean, he's even adding Magfield Accelerator, for God's sake, to make them even more effective. And we're seeing a transition out to a Stargate now for Hero. That, I mean, it delayed the expansion. You know, what really happened there? We have to now, like, take stock of what happened. Obviously, it threw a wrench in Gumiho's plans. It massively delayed his expansion, but of course, it also delayed Heroes. How much did Hero really invest in that? Resources lost-wise, it's pretty even.
Well, it's just an awesome defense by Gumiho.
Yes,
he didn't cancel the command center on the low ground, by the way, that just now finishes. So, because that's one of the first panic things that someone does. They're like, oh god, I can't finish it, cancel it, I need that money. And that would have thrown him back a little bit, but he says, no, until you attack that and force me to cancel it, I'm not going to do it. Doesn't lose that many SCVs. Yeah, he only lost 4 and was able to kill 4 of his own, so that gets completely reset. I do like the Phoenix coming out from Hero. If he was to try an Oracle, having already seen Cyclone, it just would have died essentially for free.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Phoenix, he can pick up stuff. If Gumiho tries to get aggressive, and there's 5 or 6 Phoenix, it's going to be really good for Hero most likely. But Hero's going to be able to expand and start saturating at roughly the same time, so the game kind of resets.
It does, and we see Cyclones, but the question is, will we see full-on mech against a Protoss? Because I am seeing no engineering bay. There it goes. I'm not seeing a second barracks with a tech lab on it, so that's no stim, no combat shield. I mean, you're going to need an engineering bay anyway for missile turrets, right? You know, especially around this time of the game. But more and more, I'm thinking we might see more factories.
Speaking of which, by the way, if these Cyclones show themselves, oh my god, if he sees no gas to the natural, that's actually a really cool scout, by the way. That actually kind of tips him off that maybe there's not. If there is Stargate, there's not at least additional tech. He's not worried about, like, you know, fast fleet beacon or some kind of transition.
Uses the scan to give him vision up the ground and picks off not one but two Stalkers. The problem is he's going to lose the Cyclones now, and these are expensive.
Yep.
What a lovely idea. You know, you mentioned earlier the Phoenix being a great plan, and that's exactly why. Like, that, they caught those Cyclones out and killed them very, very effectively.
And now there's more of a cost, TotalBiscuit. That's what's so cool about them. Like, all of a sudden, he might make another Cyclone here. He's going to have to make missile turrets. He's going to have to get his Marines moving around. And these Phoenix are going to reliably find out what
they found a tank.
Facing.
And they're going to be able to kill it, too, I think. You know, there's the lift. It maybe... I love the target fire from Gumiho has been excellent, targeting down the lifting Phoenix. But the tank does get killed for... What, did he lose 2 Phoenix for the cost of a tank?
2. He also got the medevac.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, getting the medevac. I think that's a decent enough trade for Hero. It's not brilliant, but it's pretty good.
It's not brilliant, but it's okay. He also scouts, sees no gas at the natural, sees tanks. I believe he saw multiple factors. I want to check to see this. No. But what he didn't see is the checklist that you just did earlier, TotalBiscuit, where he didn't see additional barracks. He didn't see a tech lab on said barracks. We, of course, see that happening now.
Yeah.
But that just means it's a very late transition to bio.
And that's never good, because if you want really, really good bio, it needs to be upgraded. You got to get your stim started. You got to get your combat shield started. You got to get your upgrade started. There's only 1 engineering bay, not 2. And you're going up against a very adept-heavy army with resonating glaives that tends to tear through unshielded Marines. So this is going to be a tricky transition for Gumiho, especially we saw the 5-gateway explosion and the warp gate. Like, basically, if Hero goes now, I think those adepts are going to rip Gumiho's army to pieces.
They could. The tanks are guarded by a missile turret and that bunker, so the Phoenix would go down fairly quickly. But to your point, with the lack of upgrades, a couple rounds of adepts like this, and that timing attack very much so does exist, especially if the Phoenix can get the Marines to stay inside the main.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And so far, they're allowing that to happen. And he's deliberately going in and saying, oh, you better stick around. Ignore what I'm doing here. Of course, that also allows for a potential drop. So he's going to put 4 down, probably try and draw the Marines to the mineral line while sending everything else in. Couple of quick pickups there.
He can warp in a lot right off the bat.
He absolutely can. And the Marines were distracted. That was a wonderful move. They pulled away, and there's a huge adept warp in right now. And now the rest of the army can attack the front. It is split up. The Phoenixes coming in, and they're going to try and grab those tanks in the process as the adepts cut through the Terran army. Are there going to be quite enough adepts to do it in this position? I mean, very well might, but as it stands, the SCVs are now coming off the line. Yeah, he does. It was weird that he pulled the warp prism back. Now comes in the warp, and now that bio army is not going to be able to hold against firepower of that magnitude. Shield isn't done. This entire thing hit before combat shield, which is such a big deal against adepts. And that is the GG. No one gets to stay on the throne today. Everybody dies.
There's it's very, we made the Hodor reference earlier, and now we're seeing every king get killed almost immediately. It's a very Game of Thrones kind of day.
It really is. All of our main characters are dying. We're not going to have any by the end of this. This has been an incredibly competitive ShoutCraft Kings up to this point.
If this was Game of Thrones, what character would you be, and what character would I be? You're Robert Baratheon, by the way. That was a trick question. You don't actually have a choice.
Oh, right. Okay. I was going through the list, and I'm pretty sure everyone ends up dying one way or the other, so the choice seems a little irrelevant.
Yeah. Just about, like, who they are while they're alive. I'm gonna go with, I think I am Daenerys. I got a great rack, I look good in a bikini, and I ride dragons. I see the comparison being very similar.
There is, of course, the delusions of grandeur. That's a point as
Yeah,
well.
she sees things in fire and stuff. I can see
Indeed.
that being, yeah. I'll let you sit with that for a little bit. I know I got you.
I mean, I'm trying my best to bleach it from my mind, but it's not working, and that...
Oh, it's in there. No, it's
Yeah.
You can't get rid of that.
It has taken root. The seeds of evil have been sown. Hero, now our King of the Hill. Against, of course, a very competitive lineup of Koreans that he faces on a weekly basis. I mean, this is Pro League all over again. Not to mention, of course, some of the foreigners waiting in the wings to have their try. Although, this is going to be, I think, a very Korean-heavy event, simply because of just the caliber of player we have here.
Yep.
You know, Snoot tried, failed, I mean, miserably, let's be honest about it.
Sure. That'll happen in a best of one. It's kind of frustrating, because we know Snoot has more to show, and we actually saw Mana took to Twitter as well after his game, and was like, oh god. He was commenting on how he had forgotten to the pylon that was blocking his natural. He actually had like 20 probes just blocked up for a minute or so.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's a huge deal.
Yeah. Which, you know, he's lamenting again because it's just one game. Most of these guys play best of threes, best of fives, so if you have one bad game, at least you have the chance to bounce back, but in this format, it's brutal. If you have a bad game, you're going to be playing against a champion that's going to make that bad game look even worse, and then you just got to go sit on that for at least a month.
That you do.